Hey everybody, welcome to the Crypto Masters Podcast, helping the general public to master an understanding of crypto assets. My name is Brian McCoy.
And my name is Ross Eaton.
And we are the Crypto Masters. All right, the topic of today's episode is Bancor. The Bancor Network is an automated market maker in competition with other decentralized exchanges like Uniswap and Sushiswap. But does Bancor have an advantage? Stay tuned to find out. Quick reminder that our goal here at the Crypto Masters is to provide information about crypto assets to help the public decide if it's something that they might want to invest in and then do further research on their own. We generally look at projects to determine if they would be good for a long-term investment.
Yep, and we provide information about different crypto assets to allow you, the listener, to make your own financial decisions. As always, this is not financial advice. And one thing, Brian, I got to say, I'm glad to be back in the DeFi space. It's been a while.
It has. And I am as well, Ross. We're both fans of DeFi, and Bancor is a very interesting project. It's been around since 2017, and fun fact, it was the first automated market maker.
That was fun, Brian.
I think a lot of people don't know that. It's kind of a little known fact. But Bancor seems to me like it's flying under the radar, even though it's kind of hitting its stride lately, I think.
Yeah. It's in market cap, it's pretty low. I think it's around still like it's in the top 100.
It's in the 90s, I think.
Yeah, 90s, and sometimes it kind of creeps out of that top 100. But yeah, let's get right into it, Brian. Let's talk about automated market makers in general, and I'll be referring to this as AMM. But everyone knows about Uniswap and similar projects. Decentralized exchanges or DEXs. They use smart contracts to allow for the exchange of tokens directly between two parties. And one of the main features of AMMs, or the two main features, one is, the swap feature. Buyers and sellers can get on and exchange, buy and sell to each other with no middleman, in the true decentralized crypto fashion.
Yep.
Most are built on Ethereum, so anyone can exchange, Ethereum or any ERC20 token for any other ERC20 token. And there's a small fee for the transaction, so these decentralized exchanges do generate some revenue.
Yep.
And the second one, and really I think this is one not a lot of people think about, especially me. I kind of accepted it as magic for a while. But in addition to the exchange feature, most AMMs also have liquidity provider pools, and this is where the asset to be swapped are located. And this is the part that not a lot of people think about. These are a way for holders of an asset to generate yield by providing to the exchange, kind of similar to a CD at a bank, for example. Yeah. But for the exchanges to work, they need the underlying assets in volume. This is the liquidity part. But the liquidity providers, or LPs, are paid for loaning their assets to the exchange. And the way this is normally done is someone will provide an asset that they own, such as BAT or USDC, and then they go to the AMM and exchange and get an equal amount of Ethereum, and then go to the pool or stake function and stake on the equal amount of BAT and Ethereum, and you get an LP pool token. It's custom to that pool, and which represents your proportionate interest in that pool, and you share in the pool's fee to that extent. You get a kickback, obviously, for providing that amount to the pool.
That's your yield.
Yeah. And a common problem with this is called impermanent loss. So if the price of one of the assets in the pool, for example, BAT, or basic attention token, goes up in value more than Ethereum, well, you can see the liquidity provider does not get the full appreciation of the BAT, and the Ethereum portion dilutes the gains, and then in this example, the person who has been better off. That person would have just been better off holding the BAT since your Ethereum just kind of tanked. So yeah, you can see the impermanent loss problem here, and we'll talk about it later, Brian, but we got burned by this. But it can be even worse with these very small tokens that can just extremely fluctuate, at a time Ethereum's appreciating. And it's a crushing blow for sure.
Yeah, tell me about it, because we both had some bad experience in liquidity staking because of impermanent loss. So that makes this episode particularly poignant for us. I personally chased some of the high APRs and then got crushed by the impermanent loss. So firsthand experience here.
It was great at first.
Yeah, right. You get the APR, but if it's in a token that's depreciating versus the other one, the impermanent loss will kill you.
Yeah.
Okay. So good overview, Ross, of the AMMs. That's my experience has been that's pretty much how they've all worked. They have the swap function where you can just go in and swap. It's very easy. That was a real breakthrough. And then they have the liquidity pool function because they need the liquidity in order to have the tokens to swap. Right?
Yeah.
Right. So it's similar for Bancor. I'm going to discuss Bancor now specifically. Mm-hmm. So it's similar to those. It has you go onto their site and it has a trade button and an earn button on the front page. The trade button is the swap feature. Once you click on it, it looks like Uniswap and the others, where you just pick the tokens you want to swap. It's very easy.
Yeah, it's super user friendly.
And then the other button, like you mentioned, is the earn button, and that's basically the liquidity provider features. And then it has lists of all the different pools that you can choose from. So to that extent, Bancor is the same as the others. In fact, it was the first one. The main difference, though, involves single-sided liquidity and impermanent loss protection. Mm-hmm. So those are both two big features I want to talk about. So, and I also want to say that prior to Bancor coming out with this, so maybe back in DeFi summer of 2020, a lot of smart people were saying there's just nothing that can be done about impermanent loss in an AMM. If you're going to have liquidity pools, then you just got to live with the possibility of impermanent loss.
Yeah.
Then Bancor came out and said, well, wait a minute, we figured it out. And it's called single-sided exposure and impermanent loss insurance. So let me talk about the first big advantage. Contrary to the other AMM protocols, and like you just gave the example of, let's say somebody really likes basic attention token, that's their thing.
Yeah.
I own a lot of it, but I want to stake it. So I'm going to go to Uniswap, and at least I'm talking about Uniswap version 2. I think it's the same for version 3, but I haven't been as involved.
Yeah.
In any event, you go to one of the AMMs, and you essentially take your basic attention token and you swap it for an equal amount of Ethereum, because that's what you're staking. You're putting in the pool equal amounts of each of those tokens. So the difference with Bancor is, and the first big advantage is, Bancor doesn't require you to provide the counterpart asset. On Uniswap, it's typically Ethereum, right? So you take your token, like Chainlink or whatever it is, BAT, or about anything, frankly. And
it's got a lot.
You have to swap it out, and you just don't have to do that on Bancor. So that's huge. You get to, if you have $10,000 worth of BAT, you get to stake or liquidity provide $10,000 worth. You don't have to swap out half of it for the other assets. So that's a huge difference with Bancor.
Oh yeah, and as a user, just to say real quick, Brian, that's more intuitive to me. If I want to stake this one in this pool,
right?
Why do I need this?
Yeah, I mean, you think without knowing how the whole thing works under the hood, you would think, why do I have to do this? But you did have to do it. Now, some other exchanges had different, it wasn't necessarily 50-50 like I think it is and has been on Uniswap, but it was always some percentage you had to get another token. In any event, so Bancor has overcome that, and they do it by using an elastic BNT supply. BNT is the native token for Bancor, which I'll talk about more in a minute. And so the protocol will co-invest the BNT in pools alongside the token that the liquidity provider has staked, and it will mint, if it needs to, it'll mint the BNT to balance the pool.
Yeah.
All right. And we'll get more in the details in a minute. The second big advantage is the impermanent loss insurance. So this insurance is not immediate, but it accrues over time by 1% each day until 100% protection is achieved after 100 days in the pool. But there's a 30-day cliff, which means that if the liquidity provider decides to withdraw the position before 30 days, then they would just be in the same impermanent loss position as any normal unprotected AMM. Mm-hmm. But after 30 days, they're partially protected up until 100 days. So on day 31, it's 31%, et cetera, up to 100. And if a liquidity provider withdraws anytime after the 100 days, they receive 100% compensation for any loss that occurred anytime in the first 100 days or anytime after that. So let that sink in. If you keep your assets staked for 100 days or more in Bancor, in your worst case scenario, you can withdraw with no impermanent loss and get the yield that was generated, guaranteed.
Yeah, it's almost kind of like a vesting situation. After the 100 days, you're vested in a sense. In
a sense, yeah. And the advantage is you just don't have to worry about it. About the impermanent loss thing. So, and if there's not sufficient tokens in the pool to fully pay out, because let's say there was impermanent loss, let's say that there was a big difference between your BAT and your BNT, and they balance it out, then the Bancor protocol will mint some more BNT to balance it out. So really, to be accurate, the insurance, I'd say Bancor didn't eliminate impermanent risk, but it shifted the risk of impermanent loss from the liquidity provider, like in the other AMMs, to the Bancor protocol, which means BNT holders. So I'll discuss this a bit more when we discuss the BNT token, but Ross, why don't you discuss the DAO, which is very active on Bancor?
Absolutely. So as we know, Bancor is owned and operated by its community as a decentralized autonomous organization, or DAO, as Brian mentioned. The Bancor protocol is governed via a democratic and transparent voting system, which allows everyone to get involved and submit proposals for changes or updates, improvements to the Bancor network. So this is very much kind of like a online decentralized democracy. It's very cool. And you don't have to own any BNT tokens to be involved, which, as we kind of sidebarred before this, Brian, if you're voting and submitting proposals in BNT or the Bancor protocol, why wouldn't you have some BNT tokens? Probably if you're that excited about it, So
you'd think so.
And just to kind of mention some of the proposals that can happen, there's kind of 3 definitive paths, and they actually have templates and things to kind of walk you through these different proposals, which I'll link in the description. But the first one is whitelisting proposals. So this is, getting a coin listed on the Bancor network. And, this allows that token to have access to the Bancor features, such as the impermanent loss protection, as Brian mentioned. The second one is liquidity mining proposals. A good example of this would be increasing the liquidity pool of Chainlink, given a rise in its popularity. We just think there's a good case for more Chainlink to be on the Bancor network or in that liquidity pool. And the third and final one is Bancor improvement proposals, obviously. These include improvements to the core functionality of the Bancor system, to contracts or existing contracts on the system. And it's important to note that even though anyone can propose or create a proposal to the Bancor system, you need a community backing for that proposal to be submitted. So I'm kind of imagining this like kind of like your proposal is election candidate. You need to get on forums, you need to get people backing this proposal because you need it. You need traction on it. You need votes. So it's not just floating out there. There are also rules you must follow. For example, for a token to be whitelisted, it cannot have an elastic supply, nor can the token's admins have access to burn or mint tokens just at their discretion. And that's just kind of one example. There's tons of rules. Again, I'll link that in the description of this podcast for you to check out. So yeah, Brian, what about the BNT token?
All right, yeah, let's talk about it. BNT, you can get it almost anywhere. Of course, you can get it on Bancor if you want to go there and just swap for something. You can do that. But also, it's on Coinbase, Binance, Crypto.com, Gemini, and many others. It's not a problem to find a place to buy the BNT. So Bancor Network currently operates on the Ethereum and EOS blockchains, but the protocol is designed to be interoperable for additional blockchains. And like most, the BNT token is used for governance and for staking rewards. There's also, you can earn another token called VBNT, and these are generated from staking in the whitelisted pools. VBNT holds the same governance rights and staking rewards as the BNT token, and there are a lot of whitelisted pools, so there's a lot of opportunities for you to earn the VBNT tokens. I'm not going to get into a lot of detail on it, but the summary is it's an additional reward on top of the liquidity provider yield that you get anyway. So it's a cool thing.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah. So BNT has an elastic supply, and that's the protocol's ability to mint and burn BNT as needed. As I said before, in the single-sided liquidity pools, the protocol mints the BNT to the extent it's necessary in order to match the stake token and to cover any impermanent loss that's not covered by the fees generated. So note that pool sizes on Bancor are limited. You have to first check to see if there's space available in the pool that you want to stake. You mentioned Chainlink, and I know at times the Chainlink pool has been full on Bancor. So based on what I said, for tokenomics purposes, you naturally might be concerned, right? After all, if they keep minting new BNT, won't there be inflation that will dilute the value of BNT? And the short answer is not really. And the burning can even be deflationary. It depends. So just so you know, the protocol invested BNT, it's minted into the pools and not out in the external market. So the BNT remains in the pools. This minted BNT remains in the pools, and it earns fees until the BNT and its accrued fees are eventually burned. And the burning of protocol invested BNT and the associated fees happen when the token provider withdraws the deposit or when the BNT holder stakes BNT in the pool. Some holders might want to stake BNT, so then they don't have to mint any, and then they actually would burn an equivalent amount if somebody wants to stake BNT. And I'm actually thinking about doing that myself.
No, same here.
Yeah. So unlike a lot of tokens with BNT, you can't just go on CoinGecko or CoinMarketCap and get an accurate reading of the circulating supply or the total supply because it's elastic. So much of the BNT that's minted is never on the public market. So much of it is burned that, at least so far, there's not been any kind of problems with inflation since they've started doing this. It's locked in a pool and until the provider withdraws it, and then it's burned. So the protocol acts in some sense like an insurer, at least when there is impermanent loss that must be compensated. But the risks are spread out over so many pools that the benefits normally outweigh the risks. It's a bit complicated, but it's a clever response to address the impermanent loss.
Excellent, and I'm glad you mentioned that, Brian, because that elastic supply can kind of intimidate you, but if you didn't know that key feature, that's
it does. I mean, we've talked about tokenomics before, and hey, if they're just minting it everywhere, but if it's not going on the market, it's not having the same impact.
Yeah, there is kind of a control behind that.
Yeah, so that's right.
That's very cool.
So maybe we talk about the founders. We always try to mention the team behind it.
Yeah. So I'll quickly mention just one of the founders here. So Bancor is founded by, I'll mention them all. Why not that? But founded by the A.L. Herzog. Hopefully I'm saying that right. Udi Levy and Galia and Guy Barazzi in 2017. And those last two are brother and sister, which is pretty cool. And it was named Bancor to honor John Keynes, who came up with the word 76 years ago to describe a supranational cryptocurrency.
John Maynard Keynes, father of the Keynesian theory of economics.
Oh, yeah. And I think I just said supranational cryptocurrency. I meant supranational currency.
Yeah, that was one of his things he wrote about.
Yeah, because 76 years ago there was no cryptocurrency.
That is true.
But yeah, this is a solid team. AL is the product architect of the protocol BNT and other products that utilize the network. He's a known voice in crypto industry and has been around, has been a technology entrepreneur for 20 years. Previously founded MetaCafe, a top video sharing site in Israel with over 50 million users. So pretty successful there. And, the other members here have been in crypto for a while. Solid team behind the project for sure.
A solid team, that started it, but now it seems to be really, really run to a more extent than I've seen with a lot of other projects by the DAO. I mean, they seem to be submitting a lot of things to the DAO, which is pretty cool.
No, and I'm glad you mentioned that, Brian. I almost see this team, just how the DAO and Bancor works. They're almost kind of like the clockmaker. They wound the clock and the clock is going.
Yeah, yeah. And, that's really how crypto is supposed to be, right? Eventually,
exactly, yeah. So that's a big check mark for me there. So.
All right, so Bancor is a complicated protocol. There are aspects we haven't even discussed, such as the Bancor Vortex. With Vortex, a user is able to use the VBNT to borrow against his stake liquidity by swapping the VBNT for any token in the network. Bottom line, the Vortex also is beneficial to BNT holders and users of the Bancor protocol. So we suggest doing your own research to check out the Vortex and VBNT in some more detail. And we'll leave a couple links down below to get you started on your research and to provide more detail into those aspects of the protocol.
Yeah, I got to say, just to mention, this is definitely one of our more complex crypto assets we've talked about. So a lot of stuff going on. So definitely this should be one of your many stops in your research journey.
Yeah, and the links, and our links.
And our links, yes. But yeah, there's obviously big changes going on. We want everyone to know about the Bancor version 3 that's been announced in May of this year, 2021. And they stated that version 3 incorporates community feedback and a core discovery. There's details to be announced later on. A killer feature that will not be easy to replicate because it relies on Bancor's unique protocol design.
Teaser alert.
Big teaser. So hopefully more on that soon. They also said that they'll allow for higher capital efficiencies without requiring active management or third-party automatic liquidity pool tools. Definitely a more hands-off approach, which is cool. Let the community drive it. Bancor says that they believe, in italics there, that the fees generated on version 3 will be a lot higher, while the liquidity pools will stay fully protected from impermanent loss. This of course means that the liquidity providers should see more earnings. And I got to say, this is kind of like a wait and see, since it's kind of iffy, but maybe a marketing strategy. I don't know, but we'll have to wait and see on that. And the features and designs of version 3 are set, and coding is happening right now. So this is, definitely well underway. And what we see as the 3 core principles driving this version 3 is, we need to get as many assets on the Bancor network as possible, including, and this is the main one, including streamlining the whitelisting. Of course, one can say like it's kind of like an act of Congress to get something whitelisted on there, but kind of as designed. But also we want to, or I'm saying they want to streamline this, of course. Core principle 2 is deliver the best yields and tools for passive liquidity pools, low cost and low friction. And 3 is to drive more trade volume through a world-class trading UI and advanced trading functionality. And I gotta say that I'm with them on that one, because if you go to the Bancor protocol, it's very user-friendly to use. One of the more user-friendly pools I've seen. So yeah. I'm behind him on that one.
What do you think, Russ? Time for final thoughts?
I think it is.
I think it is. You want me to go?
Go ahead.
I will go first. All right. So Bancor was the first AMM. So why wasn't it where Uniswap is in the top 10? That's a good question. I believe the reason is the user interface. I wasn't active on it back when Bancor first came out in 2017, but my understanding is that it wasn't that user friendly.
Yeah.
Uniswap came up with their super easy user interface, and it won out. I mean, I remember the first time going on Uniswap and thinking, can it really be this easy? Can I really just swap this for this? I mean, yeah, so I think Uniswap beat it because it had the better interface. But I give Bancor credit. They didn't go away. They kept plugging away. How can we improve this? And they found a way to address one or two of the most serious drawbacks of liquidity providing. The impermanent loss and the single-sided. I mean, the single-sided thing is it's annoying, and it can make you swap something you might not want to swap. But sometimes let's say you have both Link and Ethereum in your MetaMask. That's not really a problem. You can just still stake all your Link, but then you just have to come up with an equal part. Anyway, that's one improvement. I think the big one is the impermanent loss. I think this is just outstanding. I give them credit for coming up with that. I understand. I don't know all the details of Uniswap version 3, but I do know it did not address impermanent loss. So Bancor still is the place to go. If you want to have an alternative and not worry about impermanent loss. So why hasn't Bancor risen in the market cap ratings since it came out with this solution? Because I think it's been out since the end of 2020. And I don't know the answer to that. It's a legitimate question. Mm-hmm. And maybe a cause for concern. But I'm personally going to accumulate some BNT, and I'm definitely going to use the protocol more often, both for swapping and for liquidity providing, but especially for liquidity providing. I really like the stake it and forget it nature of this thing, because if you're in a normal pool, you got to worry, you got to monitor it to see, is there any impermanent loss going on? Should I get it out of here, before I have to take this loss? And it makes the yields I'm getting less than my impermanent loss, so you would have been better off not even staking it, right?
Yeah.
So with this, you don't have to worry about that. You can, if you keep it to 100 days, you're not going to have impermanent loss, period. And you're going to get your yield, period. So that's a really good feature. I also have some hope that when version 3 is released, and maybe there's some more marketing and publicity about Bancor, and maybe it'll get more people to try it out. And then I think once they try it out, more will stick, and it'll go up in the market cap. Well, plus, Ross, after this podcast, the world will swarm to Bancor, I think. So, anyways,
that's a big statement there, Brian.
I'll be using Bancor more often to swap and to earn yield, and I'm even going to accumulate some BNT. That's my final thoughts. I like Bancor.
Wow, that is a good final thought. And hey, this is out of the two crypto masters here, this is the biggest crypto critic. So that's a good stamp, people. You should mark that down. In popular fashion, I'm going to piggyback off you, Brian. I think this is a solid project. That this idea of impermanent loss really hit us hard when the yield farming craze was all the rage, and we got into
We was burned.
Yes. I wish I had just kept my Ethereum. Would have been a lot better place. But you see those APYs of thousands of %, and it really draws you in.
The siren song drew us in.
Wow. Yes, it did. And hey, in the first couple weeks, it was great, and then it was not so great. Right. I'm always skeptical of DeFi and you're earning yield, and this promise of this loss protection, impermanent loss protection, is great, and I think it's something I'm going to get on Bancor and really start using. And at minimum, I'm going to get on and use Bancor to acquire some tokens. And we often talk about certain coins are kind of hard to get to and acquire, and it's almost, we don't even have to mention exchanges, because if you can get your hands on Ethereum and go on Bancor's network, I mean, you can swap it and get Bancor right there. You can get BNT right there instantly. So, and being an application developer, I love to see usability of stuff be so easy. And I think Bancor's done that with their website.
Yeah, they've really improved. So, hey, everybody, check it out. Go to the Bancor site and check it out and see if you like it.
We may put a link in the description.
Yeah.
Maybe that would be a good idea.
There we go.
Yeah.
Good idea. All right, everybody. That has been another edition of the Crypto Masters. Check us out next time. We'll discuss another crypto asset.
I'm excited, and you should be too.
Thanks, everybody.